Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. So, Sheriff, tell us a little bit about this initiative that you're looking at with self-defense for the bus drivers.
Well, I want to make sure that we, from this capacity anyway, are doing everything that we can to protect our public transportation operators. You know, I want to prevent these acts from happening, not investigate them after they've happened. And right now, they're kind of helpless, sitting on the bus, trying to drive it with unfettered access to them. No other form of public transportation allows you unfettered access to the operator. Airlines, subway systems, Amtrak, even cabs now provide a shield in between the passenger and the driver. And if they're not going to do that, in the interim, they need some self-defense weapons, if you will. So I've offered to train the bus operators in the use of pepper spray. It has to be used in a certain way to prevent, you know, the operator from being sprayed in the face as well while he's trying to, or she's trying to defend themselves. And then some self-defense concepts. I don't feel enough is being done by the transit directors, who I have had conversations with, about doing something more to protect and enclose the transit operators. They don't like that idea. They say it doesn't allow for interaction with the passengers.
Well, you know, the concern that I think a lot of people have is that what happens if you do use pepper spray in an enclosed space like a bus? Isn't it putting other passengers at risk?
No, it's not, because what it does is it burns the eyes. It temporarily makes you unable to see, but it's you know, there's no danger. You flush it out afterwards. We often have to use it in enclosed spaces. Sometimes officers get sprayed, but you flush the eyes out. A little basic first aid, just something that simple. No permanent damage to the eye. The alternative is, I guess, to allow yourself to get beat up like we've seen too many times on the bus system here.
Now, I also noticed that in the press release you said that if pepper spray didn't work sufficiently, then you would look at other possibilities of self-defense. What are those other possibilities?
Well, it could be anything. I mean, you move up the continuum. We got to see what we can do to, like I said, prevent these incidents from happening. You know, a lot of this is up to the transit directors. They don't like these ideas. They think it sends the wrong message. I think it sends the right message to the would-be perpetrator, that the operator is going to be able to defend themselves. And, I mean, there's a number of weapons that can be used to defend yourself. There's batons. You know, law enforcement officers use the collapsible metal batons. There's
would you consider training drivers to use a loaded gun?
Well, I don't know I would do that if the transit directors aren't going to approve something like that. It's going to have to be something that the transit directors approve for use by their operators, and I would help train in that situation. See, the thing that you have to keep in mind that not all of these are deadly force situations, so you can't use deadly force just because somebody's beating up on you. We had a law enforcement officer, a police officer at Bradley Tech right before school let out last year that was in the middle of a big melee at the school, sustained some serious injury. I think he had a broken hand and suffered you know, some punches and whatnot. He couldn't pull out his gun and start shooting. So I think for people to say we should arm them with guns doesn't answer what about the simple assaults. And so if all you have is a fire, it's like a police officer. If all you have is a firearm, that thing is of no use, which is why we give intermediate weapons. I want to start at the intermediate level for what we've seen, a physical assault, where it's okay to use batons, sticks, if you will, physical weapons like your fists, pepper spray, those sorts of things, tasers maybe. But to jump to the firearm and to use it in a non-deadly force situation is against the law. So I want to use it, I want to do this in a continuum type method. Start with pepper spray, that's the basic one. It goes, it's hand weapons to ward off attacks or to hit back, pepper spray, and you can get into long baton, you can get into taser, and then finally the firearm. So to jump from what we've seen to the firearm,
it would be a gradual
is not going to help.
As the sheriff,
operator.
How have you felt just hearing about all these high-profile cases of bus drivers being attacked?
Well, I don't know what you mean by, how
I mean, it's disturbing, isn't it?
Well, disturbing isn't going to help here. We got to do what we can to prevent these incidents from happening. We started an initiative back in 2006, and I want to remind people, and this is important, this bus security was taken away from this organization by the Milwaukee County Board, I believe back in 1992, and they gave that to Wackenhut for $1 million a year. I called for an audit, a performance audit, not a finance audit of Wackenhut, because I don't think that the county's getting their money's worth. I don't think that I have a problem with the way they deploy people. I have a problem with their reporting. They're under-reporting. A lot of what goes on in the buses, we're never made aware of. So some decision is going to have to be made when that audit comes back to see if this is the right way to go about it. But to sit up here and for me to be disturbed and concerned is really of no help. We need to take the plan that we put in 2006 to supplement what Wackenhut's doing. That operation continues during the school year. In the summer, it backs off because we have to go to the parks. I have to move resources around. Right now, it's back operating on the bus lines, but there are over 400 buses operating at peak hours in Milwaukee County. 400. Even if I were to put a law enforcement officer on half of those, I'd need 200 people. That might be effective, but that is not an efficient way to provide security. So I think.
How soon might the training start of the bus drivers?
And it can't start until the transit director gives the okay. If they're not interested in doing this, I'm not going to force this on them. But I am going to continue to make suggestions to transit officials as to what we can do to better protect those operators and to make sure that there's more of a coordinated effort in terms of what we're doing to reduce these incidents. Because there's a passenger element to it as well. How do we protect the passengers?
Last question. What do you say to a passenger who's uncomfortable with this idea?
Well, I don't know why they would be. I mean, there's a lot of things. We got to get over this uneasiness and this queasiness about being uncomfortable with the way that security works in the 21st century. It's not as innocent as it was, and I've gotten over that a long time ago. And I told that to the transit directors. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what some of this outdated human interaction. I don't want the transit operator interacting with passengers. I want the